Hello, I am so glad you're here. This is Jennifer McGuire. So today I'm talking about mixed media. So a few weeks ago, I was part of a virtual event about mixed media, and it was hosted by Hero Arts. You can catch the replay. I will put a link below. But this event was all about the many things you can do with mixed media. Now, I feel like a lot of times mixed media can be very intimidating for those who don't normally feel they do it. A lot of people think mixed media has to be like crazy techniques with lots of paint and sprays and lots of things that really take you out of your comfort zone. However, after doing that virtual event and thinking about it, mixed media can be whatever you want it to be. It's all about using just a few different things onto a project, whatever kind of project you want, and making it your own. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm making a handful of cards, and I'm just using a few products that I really like or I've been wanting to use together and kind of layering them up and seeing what happens. And I'm trying some new things. And I'll talk more about my thoughts on mixed media as we go. So today I wanted to create some kind of mixed media backgrounds. And for me, I feel most comfortable doing kind of a mixed media thing when it's products I'm comfortable with, but trying them in new ways. So I have some Tim Holtz watercolor paper simply because it's really sturdy. You could really use any heavyweight paper here. Onto it, I'm applying Simon Hurley Lunar paste. Now this is a great product that's really smooth and has a lot of shine to it. Normally I would apply this over maybe a stencil, but today I thought I'd try something a little bit different for me, and that is to just spread some of this onto my watercolor paper. I'm going for a gold kind of sunflower inspired background, so I'm using like oranges and golds and yellows for the background. So I put some of the orange color down. Now I'm coming in with the slippery when wet, which is like a gold color, and I'm putting a little bit of that down too. Now this is out of my comfort zone. I usually do things kind of even and smooth, but I wanted to experiment a little bit. So for me, mixed media is most comfortable when either I'm familiar with a technique or I'm familiar with a product, but I'm using it in a different way. So on those two, I did a mix of the two colors. On this one, I'm just doing the gold alone and just spreading a little bit here and there, making sure it's thicker in some areas, thinner in others. I really want this to kind of be a free-spirited kind of background. And for me, that's how mixed media works best. All right, so I let those dry off screen, and now I'm adding another product onto this for even more shine that I really like, and that is the Tim Holtz Mica Stain Sprays. I'm spraying a couple colors on top of the lunar paste we applied. Now the thing with these mica stain sprays is you don't need much. You only need 2 or 3 sprays, then spray on a little water to get it moving, and that will provide a lot of color and a lot of shine on your background. Now I've done videos on lunar paste and the mica sprays in the past. I've never used them together, but I will link to those other videos up here on the top right and in my description below. Today, for this mixed media approach, I am using the two together. Now at this point, I'm thinking this is a hot mess. But whenever something looks like a hot mess, I know that oftentimes when it dries, it'll be beautiful. So I just took a baby wipe and kind of spread that stain spray around a little bit. Try to spread it a bit and have less of it on there. I absorbed some of it away. And I thought I'd leave this background as is. So I'm going to take this one, even though it's not great yet. Oftentimes, again, something may look like a hot mess before it looks beautiful. All right, so here's another one of the backgrounds. I'm again using those same 2 mica stain sprays, doing a little bit over the lunar paste that's already dried on there. Then I add some water, and I'll take that baby wipe and just go back and forth very lightly. So I kind of got this shine of the 2 different products kind of being I don't know, spread back and forth in the same direction. And I'll set that aside to dry. And then we have our final one here. I have a lot of that shimmer on my baby wipe still, so I thought I would just spread some of that over this background. So for me, I am trying a mixed media approach in which I'm using favorite products, but using them in ways that are different for me. Now, I like a clean cut look. So right now, this is just a little too messy for what I like to do. But don't worry, I will come up with the card design that'll clean it up and work for me. But this may be an approach that works best for you. Whatever works best for you is what I think mixed media is about. It's about using different products together and using it in ways either you're comfortable with or you want to kind of stretch your creativity. There really are no rules. So I let those dry and I trim them down. I always find if I've got a messy background, if I trim it down, I feel more comfortable with it, and I often will like the results. And that was the case here. I trimmed these down to be 4¼ by 5½ inches, and I am crazy about the shine that I have there. Now, I could have gotten a completely different result by maybe putting the Lunar paste over Stencil and then putting the mica stain around that. But today I wanted to try something a little bit different. So already I have a base for my backgrounds, but I wanted to add to this. Mixed media, by definition, is combining different materials or products together. Doesn't matter what you do, just as long as you use a few things together, which really, in card making, we always use a few things together, right? But I'm trying to stretch myself a little bit here. So I have one of my dried backgrounds, and I thought I would do some heat embossing on it. I have my MISTI stamping tool and a sticky mat in there, and then I also have a text background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. I will use my anti-static powder tool on the background so that I can get clean heat embossing results. Now, I know a lot of times people think mixed media has to be messy, but that's not something I'm comfortable with creating. I like to have a little bit of control. So I still do things like use an anti-static powder tool. I still cut things straight, but do whatever you like for a mixed media approach. All right, so what I decided to do was only ink up part of the stamp with Versamark ink in 3 different areas and then stamp that on our background. And then I will add gold embossing powder to it. So I won't have this text in gold over the whole background, just in a few different areas. So for me, that's kind of controlling the messy, imperfect look. And that's what makes me happy. So I am using a dry brush to kind of soften the edges of where the embossing is, just knocking some of that away so it looks more random than what I really applied with the ink. And then I will heat set it. So we're just layering lots of gold together here. We have the Lunar paste, we have the mica stain spray, and now we have the gold embossing on top of that. So I feel like this is a good example of my approach to mixed media. I'm either using products or techniques that I'm comfortable with, but then also trying either products or techniques that are a stretch for me, to try something new, to kind of break out of what I normally do, but doing it in a comfortable way. Now, if you are comfortable with doing lots of layers together and have like a messy approach, that is awesome. There are no right or wrong ways to do mixed media. So we added some heat embossing to one of the backgrounds, and I really liked that. So I thought I'd do the same on another, but change up the background stamp. This time I'm using an old letter stamp from Simon Says Stamp, and I'll heat emboss this at a diagonal, just to change things up a bit. I'll use my anti-static powder tool, I'll stamp with Versamark ink, and then add the gold embossing powder and heat set. Now, as I do that, I did also want to say there are so many inspiring artists on YouTube that do like a lot of mixed media, very inspiring to kind of go out of your comfort zone. I am by no means a pro at this mixed media thing. I'm just showing you what my approach is. I've had a lot of friends who've encouraged me to do more of it, and I thought I would encourage you to do more also. And this video is kind of my kickstart for that. I hope to do more like this, and I hope you will too. Okay, now let's do something with the third background I created. Instead of heat embossing on this one, I thought it'd be fun to use an embossing folder. I am using a new Simon Says Stamp embossing folder called Gradient Dot. This has a really cool pattern to it. I actually used it in my last video. I'll link to that video up here on the top right. Completely different style card. Now I'm running this through my die cut machine. It's a 3D embossing folder, so use whatever sandwich your die cut machine recommends. I'll run that through and I won't see a lot of the pattern because I have so many layers on there. You can see it a little bit, but to really make it stand out, I'm using a sanding block and lightly rubbing over the raised areas, so over those raised dots. And that will remove some of those gold products I put on top, the yellow, orange, and gold. And so we'll have little white dots. It just makes it stand out a bit more. You can use a piece of sanding paper for this also. And now we have this really unique looking background. I wish you could see and feel the texture in real life. It's gorgeous. So this looks a little bit different than the others. I also feel doing mixed media like this is a great time to make multiple backgrounds and try out different products all at the same time. So I have 3 backgrounds ready to go, and I thought I'd use the same background die on all of them. By using this background die, it kind of cleans it up and makes it more my style. Just something that I'm more comfortable with. And I thought this sunflower background die from Simon Says Stamp would be great with these gold, sunny looking backgrounds. Now let's start with the first one, the one where we did the gold heat embossed text. On this one, I thought I'd add additional stamping on top. So I have my MISTI stamping tool, and inside of it, I'm putting my Waffle flower grip mat. This will just help to hold the background in place as I stamp on it. Now I have a Simon Says Stamp Retro Wishes stamp set. Now this is a completely different style than the cards I'm making, but that's one of the things that I like to do with mixed media, approach it from mixing different types of products together in an unexpected way. Now on top of my background, I'm putting my Simon Says Stamp A2 placement guide. It's a clear heavyweight piece with a grid on it. And that allows me to move stamps around and kind of get them positioned just right over my background. It holds those stamps there as I move them around. Sometimes it's hard to get little stamps to stay put as you get the positioning just right. So I find that placement guide very helpful. Now, I am overthinking this. I am overthinking where I'm going to put these images. But that's who I am. That's how I create. I overthink things. If that's not how you create, that's awesome. I wish I was a little more free-spirited. You can do free-spirited stamping here. You can do whatever you want. There's no wrong way to do mixed media. I also thought I would try my distress colored Archival inks. These are beautiful inks from Ranger and Tim Holtz, and I thought these colors would be beautiful on top of these backgrounds. After I stamp with them, I do heat set them just to make sure that they dry, and it just gives a little bit more to this background. I actually layered 2 different colors together to make it stand out even more. So don't be afraid to try different inks, try different layering, just to experiment. It's also a great opportunity to get to know your products better. I also chose some little triangle shapes from that same stamp set, and I just stamped them here and there over the text heat embossing that we did. So here I am drying those inks, and that just added some fun interest to that background. I learned some things about what I would do different next time or what I liked, and that's another thing that is really helpful about doing a kind of a mixed media approach is you're just mixing things and just seeing what you like. All right, let's take another one of the backgrounds. This one is the one that has the old letter gold heat embossed on top. I thought I'd add one of my key things for mixed media, white pigment ink. I don't know what it is, but adding a little white pigment ink to a background just really makes things pop. So I found this butterfly stencil set from Simon Says Stamp, and I like this little cluster of dots. I put that down onto my background, and I'm applying white pigment ink over the openings. So I'm not using the butterflies, just the dots, just to add little pops of white on the background. There's something about that white pigment ink on the background that kind of glows and really stands out nicely. By the way, I have my Waffle flower grip mat there on my desk, and that's holding the stencil and background in place as I do the inking. Now this white pigment ink won't want to dry on its own right away, so you can either heat set it or do like a finishing spray on top. It's totally up to you. I'll add something else to it in a moment. So I'm just kind of moving this around. I usually do things in threes, like a triangle cluster. So you'll see I kind of do 3 areas of the white dots. That again is me like overthinking and kind of controlling it a bit just to make it more comfortable for me. But you can definitely do this however you want. I just love that pop of white. In fact, I liked it so much that I'm doing it over that last background that we did with the text and the additional stamping on it, just to have that little bit of white touch on it. Now, I could have grabbed a different stencil, but I have this one out. I might as well use it on the different backgrounds. Now, instead of heat setting that white pigment ink to let it dry, I thought while it's still wet, I would add some Ranger Perfect Pearl. This is a pigment powder and it'll stick to anything that is wet on there, including this white pigment ink. So I'm just tapping some of it over the white pigment ink areas on the 2 backgrounds, and then I will brush off the excess powder. This will give a shine, like a pearly shine to the white pigment ink. Now it's up to you. You could leave this as is, or you can spray it with a fixative. I will show you the fixative that I would normally use, but honestly, for today's, I didn't bother using a fixative. If you do use a fixative, I do recommend going outside to spray it just for safety reasons. Okay, so I have these 3 backgrounds and I'm happy with how they look at this point. They really didn't take long to do and they have a lot of shine. Now the one where I used the embossing folder, I'm going to use it as is. But the other 2 where we did the layering and the heat embossing, I thought I would use that sunflower die to cut from those backgrounds so that I can actually make 2-for-1 cards. So I'm taking one of those backgrounds and I'm cutting using that sunflower frame die. I'm using my Griffin Empress machine, but you can use whatever die cut machine you have. So by cutting this, I can use the die cut itself on one card and the negative pieces on another card. Now there are a couple ways you can do this. I'm going to show you one here. This isn't my favorite way, but I thought I'd show it in case you might like it better. I'm taking out all of the negative pieces. You can see that there. And I have also the die cut in the die, and I'll just pop that out also. So I'm popping everything out of the die. And we can use these 2 different pieces on 2 different cards. Let's start with the die cut itself. I die cut another of the frame from white cardstock and I'm gluing it to the back of our gold die cut just to give it some dimension. You could totally skip that if you want, but it gives it dimension and it gives it strength and it just makes it stand out even more. So I use liquid adhesive to glue those together and then I'll put something heavy on it while it dries. Now for the other one, the negative piece there, I'm starting with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding white note card. And I'm covering pretty much all of the front of it with some tape runner. You could use an adhesive sheet here. There's a variety of things you could use. Tape runner seemed easiest for me at the time. So I pretty much covered the front of that with the tape runner. And now I'm taking a white die cut frame. This is actually 2 white die cuts glued together, and I'm placing that right into the adhesive on the front of our card. So this will be a white die cut on a white card. I actually find it easiest to flip the frame over and then flip the card over and lay them together instead of picking up the frame and laying it onto the card. Then I can take the negative space and put it around the die cut, just kind of pop it in place. You might have to move the white die cut a little bit, but that's the advantage of using a tape ruler. You can move the pieces until they all fit together nicely on the front of your card. Now this takes a few minutes to do. I do have another way to do this that I find easier, but I wanted to show this in case this option made more sense for you. So what we have here again is 2 of the white sunflower frame die cuts glued together. Have that on the front of a white note card, and then we're putting that negative gold die cut piece around the white die cut frame. Once these pieces are in place, this background or card will be done except for a sentiment. So I'll set that aside. We'll add the sentiment later. Let's go back to the other die cut piece where we glued it together with the white die cut and finish that one off. It should be dry now. So let's create that note card with the stamping on the background. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch top folding white note card. And I will stamp that same text stamp with Hero Art's Sand Core ink. This is a nice light neutral brown color that is great when you're creating warm colored cards like this one. So I've inked it up lightly with the Hero Arts sand ink and I'll stamp that onto the white note card. This is a step you could skip, but I feel like it adds some interest to the card. On the back of my sunflower frame die cut, I added some liquid adhesive, and I'm laying that note card onto it. And so now this card background is done. You can see that mixed media gold shine on the die cut and the soft text stamping in the background. So there are 2 backgrounds from one panel. We'll give those some time to dry, and we'll come back to add a sentiment later on. All right, next we have our other background here that had the heat embossing on it. And again, I will die cut from that, giving us 2 pieces to create 2 cards. Now this time I have another way to take out those negative die cut pieces and put them back together. This is much easier. I ran that through my die cut machine, and now I have all my die cuts still in that die, and I'm leaving it there. They're stuck in there, that's fine. Just leave them there for now. I have a top folding white note card that is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And once again, I'm covering that with tape runner, just so that I have lots of exposed adhesive there to grab our die cuts. Now I'll take the die with the die cuts in place and lay that onto our exposed adhesive. I will then use a craft pick or other tool to push all of the exposed gold paper there that we created onto the note card behind it. So that's really pushing those negative space pieces onto the adhesive on the note card behind it. So we don't have to try to finagle them and move them around and fuss with them to get them lined up with the die cut we add. They'll be in the right position because of this technique where we're pushing them out of the die cut. So you can see I'm pulling the die away, and still in that die is the frame die cut itself. We're just pushing out those negative pieces, and now they're stuck to the adhesive on that white card. Look how easy that was. Now with this background here, I can die cut another white sunflower frame and put it on the remaining exposed adhesive. It'll fit in like a puzzle piece. It won't take long at all. And there you have a beautiful die cut inlay background. So much easier than what I did on the last card, but I think it's always good to show different ways to do things in case one doesn't work well for you. So now this note card is ready for sentiment. We'll set it aside with the other 2. We still have our beautiful gold die cut frame to use. Now I wanted to put that onto a white note card with some text stamping like we did on our last example, but this time I'm not inking up the whole stamp. I'm inking up the whole stamp, but then I'm using a dry cloth to remove some ink in different areas so that when I stamp this, it's not solid text. There are some kind of white spots or softer spots, which just, adds to this mixed media feel that I'm trying to do here. It still is comfortable for me. It's that text and it's nice and straight, but by removing some of the ink, it's changing up what I would normally do and kind of stretching how I do things. So I put adhesive on the back of our die cut frame, adding that on that text note card, and then putting something heavy on it while it dries. Using liquid adhesive is really helpful here because I can move it until it's straight on the card and the flowers are all lined up, and then give it time to dry. All right, now we still have that 1/3 background where I used the embossing folder on it. I just die cut 2 white sunflower frames, glued them together, and then glued that onto the gold background. So we got 1 card from that one, but I love the texture behind those sunflowers. All right, so this gives me 5 cards. I did add some sentiments to it off screen. I chose thanks sentiments because I'm always in most need of thank you cards. And let's take a closer look at each. We'll start with the one that we just completed with that embossing folder background, and we did the layered white die cuts on top. I added a thanks sentiment from Simon Says Stamp. I cut the shadow from white cardstock and the word thanks from gold matte cardstock. And I also added some gold gemstones to the center of the sunflowers. So this one has a little bit of a cleaner look than the others because I just used the embossing folder on that shiny background. But one thing you can't really see in this video, I wish you could see, is the different types of shine on the background. You have the shine of the Lunar paste and the shine of the Mica sprays. Both are super shimmery, and I just wish you could really catch that variety on screen. It just doesn't capture for some reason. Now here is one where I did the gold embossing of that old letter script, and you can see also the white pigment ink dots on that. We also have the text stamping that we did on the white note card behind it, and I added a black glossy and white die cut sentiment. And here is its partner card. Here you can better see that script gold heat embossing and those white pigment ink dots that we did. I just feel like those look like they glow against that gold shiny background. And by the way, you could do this card with different colors in the background. I did all golds just to save some time because I had the products out. I used the same one on all the backgrounds, but you could change it up if you want to. Now on the background of this one, I feel like you can see more of the different shines that you get on the background. We have the shine of the mica spray, the shine of the lunar paste, and the shine of the heat embossing. And I just think that all adds together to offer so much interest on that background. And that white die cut with it, that crisp white die cut, kind of gives it a cleaned up look, which is something that I like to do. All right, now here is the last one. This is the text background where I removed ink in some spots so it wasn't complete. And you can see the shine on the sunflower die cut itself. So this is kind of my approach to mixed media, where I just use different products or different techniques that I have or know and try to change them up and do something a little bit different. It's a great way to experiment and stretch your creativity, but you can do it in your own way. Whatever you're most comfortable with, I encourage you to find a way to dip your toes into the mixed media world and see what you can come up with. If you're interested in the products I use, I have them linked below in my YouTube description, and I'll link to a couple other related videos here at the end. Thanks for spending this time with me. I'll see you soon.